Insider presents Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lachlan. We cover entertainment, news, and tech with special guest appearances. So sit back and enjoy as we geek out together right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geek Speak. This is Meredith Lachlan with my guest, I'm my co-host, I should say, my co-chair. I blew it. Oh my gosh! But we are talking about the cleansing hour, and we have two very special guests today. I'm going to drop the card here so you guys can see. Hello.
Hello.
And of course, we have. Yep, I was going to say we have Damien LeVeck and Alix Angelis. The wrong syllable all the time. Did I say that right?
Can you say it again?
Alix Angelis.
That's right.
Okay, because it could be like Angelis, the whole syllable.
It's like Los Angeles.
Okay. So we're here talking about the cleansing hour. You guys, I got to see it. Matthew didn't.
Tonight, though. I'm going to watch it after we're done here tonight.
And I'm very excited about this, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. But I wanted to put you up on the big screen and let you introduce yourself really quickly and your role with this movie. And I almost removed you, Damien. I'm going to pop you up first. There you go.
All right. Well, my name is Damien LeVeck, and I am the writer-director of The Cleansing Hour, also the producer and editor of The Cleansing Hour.
So many roles with indie films. Alix.
Hi, I'm Alix Angelis, and I play the character of Lane in The Cleansing Hour.
I guess my first question is going to be to you, Damien, because I was looking through IMDb, and I noticed that The Cleansing Hour was actually a short a few years ago, and then you extended this to be a feature film.
Right.
What was the thought process of that? Because a lot of times the shorts, they kind of stay that way, but then this must have been bothering you. As a writer, I'd love to hear that story. Like, was it just one of those things where you're like, you know what, there's more to tell.
More to tell.
Yeah. Well, the short film was actually it was made as a proof of concept for the feature film. So it was always intended to be expanded into a feature. So that is the reason for the similarity between the short and the feature, at least in terms of the story. The short was made primarily using a Kickstarter campaign, and it was a pretty big budget short film. We spent a lot of money on it. But it was worth it because it turned out very well. We went around the world to some really big festivals. We won a lot of awards, and it ended up, for that reason, being a great sales tool to help finance the feature.
Very cool. Now, we're going to show the trailer here shortly, but tell everyone what this movie is about. Sure.
Well, The Cleansing Hour is about two young millennial guys, Drew and Max, who run a webcast where they stage hoax exorcisms that they pass off as real. And one day, their actor doesn't show up, and the director of the webcast asks his fiancée, Lane, to sit in for him and be the possessed girl. And unfortunately, she becomes possessed, and these guys don't know how to deal with it. And the demon possessing her holds them all hostage on set and gives them until the end of the show clock to get out alive. Meanwhile, millions of viewers are racking up watching this horror show happen, and they are trying to figure out how to survive.
Have you said that a few times? That was very good.
I've said it a few times. Yeah.
That was very good.
I wanted to pass the baton over to Alix because it's so funny because at the beginning you're all clean cut and all prettied up and through the progression it's just like I'm wondering what it was like on scene. I mean, were they like just throwing buckets of stuff at you
that is incredibly accurate. That word you used, clean, when I'm not the demon, that was very visceral on set. So we shot basically in order, and so I just got more and more messy as time went on and the weeks went on. And so, by the end, I was like, got to set, and they handed me this like disgusting garment. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the next 12 hours.
Did you get to keep that? Did you get to keep that dress?
No, I don't want that dress.
She's gonna wear it out on Friday night. Now, Alix, was this the first time that you've played sort of in the supernatural horror sphere, or have you been in other movies of this nature?
Actually have been in other movies. Horror movies. I played a woman who had gone into the woods as a small child with a lot of burn injuries, and she comes out as like a 25-year-old back into society. That was visible scars. So that was also a lot of makeup and being dirty.
No, I have to ask, because we had a previous guest and we asked her, it's like, do you prefer being glammed up or do you prefer being like in the blood and the goop and the special effects? And she's like, oh yeah, give me the dirty stuff. She's like, I can't stand being glammed up.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I lean towards that as well. I mean, as much as it is sticky, there's not that like mental pressure of looking beautiful, right. Which on so many other films, it's like, okay, cut like, and the vanities come in and they're like moving one strand of hair and like, wait, was that take okay? And they're like, yeah, but your hair was out of place. And I'm like, okay, that's not that fun,
Right. I noticed that, like she said, I've only seen the trailer so far. I do plan on watching it tonight. But right at the end of the trailer, you got me really quick when you got that one line. You say it's time to go off script, but you've got this evil twinkle in your eye. Now, was that something you had to practice in the mirror for, getting these evil expressions down, or did you just kind of go with the moment?
It comes really easily to me. I don't know what
you had older brothers, didn't you?
Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about this. We had over 3,000 submissions for this role. And, thankfully we had a casting director who got to sift through all the tapes and send me the best ones, because we had done auditions. We had held like two or three separate auditions, and I just wasn't finding anybody that really clicked for me. And so we just basically were resorting to self-tapes, and Alix's tape came through, and I was just like, whoa. And I showed my wife, who was also the producer on the movie, Natalie. I said, you got to see this one. And she got so freaked out looking at it. And then all of a sudden now I'm comparing every other tape to Alix, and like, not as good as Alix, not as good as Alix, not as good as Alix. And finally, after watching enough, I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, she nailed it. So everything from that point, I mean, it was just an easy decision. Alix just was like, when she read the sides, it was almost as if she was inside, she was possessing me, because she was just like delivering these lines exactly how I imagined they would be delivered, and just so perfectly and even better than I could have imagined. So yeah, she was freaking amazing.
Yeah, that was something that we had too, because I put it on tape with my husband and we both watched it back, and that was the same reaction we had. So when you shudder at your own tape, it's like, okay, send that.
Right. So now the set must have been pretty intense, because it's really nonstop as you're watching the film. How was it to basically direct everybody? I mean, the intensity and stuff. And do you bring that home at night, or can you shut that off at the end of the day?
Well, I did bring it home at night. To answer your question, yeah, the set is always. I mean, I was probably the most stressed out person there. We had probably 50 to 60 people there every day on set, doing in different capacities. But we're always running against the clock, and this movie was difficult for a lot of different reasons. Every day, once the cleansing hour show, in the movie gets going, every day had some wild combination of makeup effects, stunts, visual effects, pyrotechnics, things like that take a lot of time to set up. And that limited the amount of coverage that we can do, and we only had 19 shooting days in Romania. So we shot this in Romania. We were all living out of hotels. So, and the other crazy part about this is when you're making a movie in Romania, you still have people you're communicating with in LA. So we would do a 12-hour day. And it was an hour to drive to the studio. So we'd get up, we'd be in like the car at 5 a.m. We'd get to the studio at 6. Alix goes into makeup. We start shooting whatever we could shoot without Alix. And then we do our day. Alix leaves, goes and gets out of makeup, drive an hour back to the hotel. Somewhere along the line, if we have a cell phone signal, we order food. Mind you, we're in Bucharest, which is a pretty big country, but for whatever reason, phones didn't work. Then we get there, and if we do decide to go to dinner, that takes 2 to 3 hours because that's just how it is there. And if you were able to order food, you wait 3 hours to get your food. Meanwhile, you are doing work. I'm doing work to prepare for the next day. I'm meeting with the DP. And then after I meet with the DP for an hour or two, then you go up to the hotel, up to your room, and have phone calls and emails for the next 3 hours because LA is just waking up as Romania is going to sleep. So it was intense, and I did this for 2 months straight. So it was awesome.
I just want to say though that it didn't show. Like you seemed very calm. You were a great leader.
Oh, thanks.
And it was the least stressful set that I've ever been on. I mean, I actually think that it might have been because I didn't understand what a lot of the crew were saying. Yeah.
Everyone was speaking Romanian.
If there's something going wrong, I don't know about it. So it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't generally get visibly stressed out, just like to the point where you're projecting the energy on other people.
But that's like really important. Good job.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. But no, I like to tell people this was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I can't wait to do it again. It was really a great experience, and I want to go back to make another movie in Romania.
Yeah, that would
really?
be fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Now, part 2.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say a minute ago, is that Alix, given all those props there on how good you were on set, she's just vying for that sequel already.
Flattery gets you everywhere.
Exactly. Now, Damien, well, first, Alix, how long on average did you have to spend in makeup every day?
It depended on the level of, as it gets worse, but I think by the end or like halfway through, it was like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Damien, as we mentioned earlier, this started out as a short, a proof of concept. How long let's start this at the beginning. When did you have the idea, or where did the idea come from? And then how long ago was that? So where did you go? How long did it take you to get from idea into release later this month on Shudder?
Sure. Well, the inception of the idea was the summer of 2015. Then the short film was shot in November of 2015, released in the following March or April. And from that point forward, it was penning the feature script and trying to put together the feature film, financially and everything. So it's about a 3-year process, which is not uncommon for movies.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And you asked me where the idea come from. It was I think it really had a lot of its genesis in my career working in unscripted television or reality TV, and also just sort of this fascination with the power of editing. I've been an editor in commercial television and film for 15 years, and it's such a powerful art form. People don't understand how much you can be manipulated by just editing picture. So in reality TV, it's anything but, and a dirty little secret of reality TV is that, most of it is scripted to some degree. And whatever's not scripted is, edited very, intensively. So I'm really fascinated by this idea of like people thinking that like what is reality TV is actually real. And then also, whenever you watch a video on like a World Star Hip Hop or, TMZ or something, if it's like lower quality cell phone video, all of a sudden that sort of lends itself to verite. It's more authentic. It's more real. If the cell phone footage is grainy and dirty and hard to see, oh, it's almost more believable in that way. So that was sort of the reason why, like in the cleansing hour, we degraded the quality of the picture whenever you cut to the webcast footage, because it feels grittier. So anyway, it was taking those ideas and combining it with my love for exorcism horror, and just thinking, hey, what if the two of these went hand in hand? And sadly, it ended up being very prescient, because after the script was written, you started seeing more stories about people doing horrible things on Facebook for attention. Everything from suicide to murder and like all these kinds of horrific things. So, but I do think that that's sort of like, it's intentional. The message of the movie is certainly intentional. I mean, it's about the dangers and like evils of social media, if you want to go there. It doesn't shine a very favorable light on social media and the culture that surrounds it.
Yeah, and speaking of script, though, how strict were you with the script, or were the actors allowed to improv a little bit, and you kind of were able to take some of that?
It was pretty much to the word. I mean, there was some improv, and I was always open to improv, but it's a very tight script. It's a 90-minute movie, so every line is in there for a very specific reason. So we had to be very careful not to deviate too much, for fear of poking a hole in the plot or something.
Right. And to you, Alix, being that you were basically strapped to a chair for the majority of it, it seemed very physically intensive.
Sorry, you froze. What was that?
Oh, yeah. It seemed that you were very, even though you were strapped to the chair, it seemed that you were physically, it was physically intensive in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So I have to wonder about wounds.
Funny you should ask. No, I was safe, except for when I got to enthusiastic. So the only injury that I got was I was thrashing around in the chair, and my legs below the knee were bumping on it, but I didn't even notice. It's not like it hurt in the moment, but when I was being wiped down at the end of the day, the makeup artist was like, "These won't come off. What is this?" And it was just covered in bruises. I was like, "Oh my goodness!
Oh no!
I'm so dedicated."
You got to inflict an injury.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Remember that?
Which one? Fake or real?
No. Well, it almost turned into a real thing. If you remember, whenever she headbutts Max and Max falls to the floor, on one of those takes, she actually made contact with his face.
Oh.
And we were worried, oh my gosh, did we just permanently scar the actor?
You didn't need those teeth, did you?
Really?
That was not intentional.
No, it was not intentional. Of course not.
I'm not that method. Okay.
Now, Damien, of course, I don't want you to bite the hand that feeds you in any way, but how was it that you came up with Shudder, to work with Shudder, and how has it been working with them since then?
Well, Shudder's awesome. I really couldn't have picked a better home for this movie. It's such a perfect platform for the cleansing hour, just because of the type of movie that it is. And, I really made this movie for genre fans. It's the kind of movie that is the kind of movie that I want to see. That's what I set out to do. And, I think that the people at Shudder picked up on that very quickly, because they were interested in seeing this movie before it was even finished. They read the script, and they wanted to see an early cut of it. And I held off until it was done. But they were very interested very early on, and here we are today, October 8th.
Did you? Yeah, October 8th. That's on Shudder, everyone. And we've told you for the last few weeks that Shudder is the channel to get, especially for October. But guys, they've got a great library already, but then they add new stuff every single week. And I have yet, and I'm not saying this just because we've got this new relationship going with Shudder, I have yet to watch one of their originals that I didn't like. and that's just all there is to it. And I'm looking forward to this one tonight. And damn it, Meredith, I never get away with it. I had something and I got to talking, and now I lost my question.
Always happens.
I'll
Always
tell you
happens.
I'll tell you something else about Shudder that it's one of those things where you can never see the future. But when Shudder told us that they wanted to release the movie in October, I was a little bit bummed because it's like, wow, that's a long ways off. The movie's been done for quite some time now. But then COVID hit, and all of a sudden, Shudder's subscribership just skyrocketed. And they put out a press release a couple weeks ago that they just hit 1 million subscribers, and they're on track to hit 4 million by the end of the year. Wow. So in Q4, they're going to more than quadruple their subscribers, and now more people are going to see Cleansing Hour, or at least be exposed to the movie on a platform than ever would have seen it before if it had gone online whenever the movie was finished. So and it's also Halloween, so people are in the spirit and everything. It's a perfect time.
I had just heard on the news, and I didn't get to read the whole article, but something about Regal movie theaters
shutting
down for the foreseeable future. And it's with movies kind of going the way they have been, especially basically VHS tapes, which I kind of grew up with, to DVDs now and stuff. But I think people are turning more and more into the streaming services. Oh, well, we'll get her back. But so they're turning more to the streaming services and having these options, especially for the more genre specific, is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. The market is totally in flux. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It really breaks my heart whenever I hear about theater chains closing down. I don't think the theaters are going to fully go away. But I think that given what has happened now, it's going to probably mean that theaters are going to become sort of more of a specialty event, for like the big tentpole sort of movies, and people are mostly going to, like you said, stay on streamers and stay at home. It's all the more reason to invest in a nice home theater.
Right.
Well, my hope actually is that there's a renaissance of the drive-in theater. I grew up with those. I loved those. And
I went to one recently. It was fun.
Yeah, for horror films especially. When I was younger, we would go around and we'd scare the heck out of people in somebody else's car, so bye.
Well, that's where I first saw. I saw the first Friday the 13th in a drive-in, and I was up on top of the car, and every time I would move, it would pop that tin and scare the shit out of my mom and her friend. And so it wasn't even that long into the movie, and they're like, "Get your butt in the car." But Alix, speaking of the pandemic and everything, one thing that we've talked to a lot of creators about is, what have they done during the shutdown? Did they get more productive? Did they start writing more, especially, those actors that can't get out and go to set? Or did you just kind of, you stick at home and enjoy the time? And the biggest question is did you get bored enough to watch Tiger King?
Well, yeah, I definitely did that. That was like a whole other, era of the quarantine. But I did sort of a mix of things. There was definitely time to get quiet. I felt very at peace for a lot of it because, there wasn't like all these things pulling you in different directions. You kind of had to find some peace amongst the anxiety. And then I was actually lucky enough to shoot a feature film in Oklahoma, like right smack in the middle of the quarantine. We were green light from SAG because it was outdoors mostly and
cool,
in rural and very small crew. So I didn't think that I was going to work during the quarantine, but I was very lucky. And then, yes, I have been writing and directing. I've directed 2 music videos with an artist and she was just the one person in it. And we had like a mini crew and I'm excited about that.
Very cool. You want to give them a shout out?
The music videos?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So my sister, Chris Angelis, Kris, she's the artist, and she's actually on the Grammy ballot this year. So I made 2 music videos for her song Ghost, which is on the ballot, and a new single called My Quiet.
Awesome.
Very cool. I'll have to check those out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we go any further, Meredith, why don't we show everybody the trailer for this? Because I'm telling you, I'm all about horror, but I get these little press releases throughout the week, but Meredith beat me to this one. Usually, I'm the one that I post a press release and I write to them and I go, "Hey, yes, we'd love to do an interview." I come in Saturday and she goes, "Matthew, we're probably getting a screener to this movie, and then I'm seeing about if I can get us interviews with everyone for Monday." I was like, okay, cool. But so I've only been able to see the trailer yet, but this definitely has me drawn in, and I think it'll draw in a lot of the other listeners. So, and folks, real quick though, if you're only tuning in on the podcast or on Indie Volt Radio, remember you can always follow us on YouTube. Just look up Geek Insider on YouTube, because that's where we have the video with our guests. And then we also, anytime we show trailers or music videos or images, any of that stuff, this is where you're going to see it. So stand by where let's watch the video or the trailer for The Cleansing Hour.
We'll be right back.
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to give me your name.
And cut. Nice job, everybody. Good job.
I gotta think. Man.
Follow monitors, let me lead.
All right, everybody, here we go. 3, 2.
Time to go off script.
See?
And we're back. That pretty intense. But I wanted to show this really quickly, okay? Because look, all pretty, all pretty, and then oh my god!
Is that the case of 10 and 2? You never mind. That's an old joke. But I wanted to know because you mentioned this kind of earlier, Damien, about the short, the proof of concept that you crowdfunded for it. Was the feature crowdfunded as well?
No, it was not.
Okay. I was just wondering, because we've met a lot of creators this past 8 months since COVID hit, independent, creators, writers, directors, actors, and they are, from the most part, we're seeing a lot of good coming out of crowdfunding. I mean, we've seen some badass comics come out. There's, what is that? Machines of Man that's coming that looks like it is a major high budget special effects movie. And this is independence made with a small budget, but with crowdfunding. Well, and actually I take that back. They didn't make it with crowdfunding. They were only distributing with crowdfunding. But anyway, we love the indies here. And that's why with Shudder, we like our relationship with Shudder. We do a lot with Full Moon Features, which, there's like the oldest of the old of indies. But Damien, have you always been into horror? You said you liked horror and exorcism, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, man. My parents freaked out that I loved Stephen King so much. And because I was in school, man, I'd be reading those big, thick, The Stand or whatever in class. And they gave me shit. And so I'm just wondering, were you in it at an early age? And even if not, what kind of support did you get from your family as you moved into the entertainment industry?
Sure. I was in it from an early age, but I wouldn't say that I was like a guru or like a cinephile when it comes to horror films. I just liked movies. I did start gravitating toward the supernatural stuff pretty early. I mean, I saw The Exorcist when I was 12, which my parents were pretty hands-off with the kinds of movies that I watched. Pretty much after I was like 10, 12, they were pretty hands-off, which maybe wasn't the best idea, but I just generally liked all movies, and as I got older, I really enjoyed writing movies that had a supernatural bent, or just touched on eternal things, and the exorcism movies in particular are the ones that really struck a chord with me. So when I wrote Cleansing Hour, that was definitely something I was like, okay, I want to make this movie. I'm ready now. And as far as like other genre films, like I do enjoy them, but some more than others. I'm very fond of any kind of creature practical effects movies from the 80s and 90s. I think those are phenomenal. In fact, the next movie that I want to direct has a giant creature in it, a big monster that I want to do entirely practically with no CG. I too was a fan of Stephen King, and I read some Stephen King books when I was a young man, and I would love to do anything like that. I'd love to do an adaptation of a Stephen King book. That would be a lot of fun. That would be a dream, really.
Yeah.
Now,
Alix, what about what about
well,
you?
hang on.
I mean,
Let her answer that
genre?
question.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a specific genre that you're into?
Well, I'm sort of the opposite of Damien. This always comes up in interviews for the Cleansing Hour, but I was not into horror at all in my life. In fact, I'm afraid of horror films. But thankfully, when I watched the Cleansing Hour, I'm not afraid of myself. But no, this actually has been like a mind-opening experience, because we premiered at Fantastic Fest and Sitges, and I got to see a lot of the genre that I was too chicken to explore before. So good
now,
stuff.
see, my wife is the exact same way. She was not a horror fan, but she's the one actually 2 weekends ago that said, "Hey, let's watch some stuff on Shudder." I've slowly adapted to her, and then made her adapt to it. And then she really surprised me, because night before last we watched Haunt, which is really crazy killer clowns and really scary movie. And she does not like crazy clowns. She loved it. She loved the freaking movie. I told her, I was like, "Who are you and what have you done with my wife?" But I wanted to ask. I almost did it again. Damien, being a writer, I know that you've probably got a lot of projects that are minimized, or that they're, got an outline written, you've got them closed down over here. But if somebody come up to you and said, "All right, Damien, we want you to do another horror movie, and we're going to give you X amount of dollars for the project," do you have a story in mind that you would say, "Okay, here we go"?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got several.
And that's a pretty common answer that I get from the writers in this genre, that it's not just a one-off thing. And especially you can tell when someone really enjoys the genre.
Oh, yeah.
And Alix, I would have thought by the line there of, and the look on your face, I would have thought you were a horror fan and you had been just waiting for this moment. But guys, we're at that 30-minute mark, and we know that you're busy, and I always go on talking to great people for a long time, but we have one question that we always ask everybody, and I just totally stole Meredith's line here, and I should turn it around and make her ask the question, because usually she does this line and makes me do the question. But
I always screw it up some, but I just pass it over to Matthew. I don't know why I just get tongue-tied when I try and ask it.
yeah, and Alix, it's ladies first, and so we'll ask you, if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I think it would be to not be afraid of bothering people.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I think that's something that I struggle with in my normal life. And I think that's actually why I love acting so much, because it gives me permission to be loud and take up space and
right.
be weird. And it's really freeing and fun. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Damien, same question to you, sir.
I would say try and decide.
Apple stock.
Yeah, right, exactly. I would say decide what you want to do early on, and then work tirelessly at pursuing it.
Gotcha.
Hindsight's always 20/20, but I often look back on my life and I think that I wish I had spent more time, directing or writing, or less time doing this or that. I don't usually, I'm not the kind of person that lives with regret, but I mean, I do think that generally these days that most people sort of piss away their 20s and they don't take their future seriously. And I think that being more focused on your career and what you want to do early on is actually really beneficial.
Now you've got a fur baby behind you. What's
Yes.
what's his or her name?
Oh, that's my vicious beast. Come here, Ruger. This is Ruger. Come here. Come over. You gotta say hi. You gotta say hi. Come on.
Say hi.
There we go. Look at. There he is.
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah. Pibble kisses.
Is that a pit?
Yeah, it's a pit.
I love them.
Look
Absolutely
at
love them.
that vicious face.
do you have any fur babies too, Alix?
That's why I was looking for him. I have a cat. He's the best, but he's not in the room.
I have a friend of mine who her cat always jumps on the desk, and we always get like cat butt.
Yeah, I think that's my husband was smart and planned for that, so he's out there.
I'm surprised mine haven't made a noise, because usually I have the TV or the radio on when I'm working, but the second I get on into the studio, everything goes off, and so every sound they hear out there, they all go barking, and I have 6 of them in here. And so it's in 6 little yappers. Yeah, we live out in the country, and I'm a sucker. And so when it's, Dad, you got to keep this one, or Pop, you got to keep this one, because I got grandkids too. And so, but then, Pop gets suckered into it, but Pop also didn't realize that he was going to be the one keeping and feeding and maintaining them. I thought he would take them when they moved, not leave them here. I mean, I'm glad the kids moved, but they could have taken their pets with them.
Right.
But guys, I wanted to say real quick, we want to let y'all go, but tell everyone where they can follow you at, where they can find you, what can they expect to see you in next, if you know, and anything that you just want the crowd to know. And Alix, it's ladies first again, ma'am.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alix Angelis, Alix Angelis. It's ALIX ANGELIS. And I have a romance film, a rom-com, if you will, coming out pretty soon. It's called Harvest of the Heart.
Oh, excellent. I can't wait to hear about
Which
that.
also actually sounds kind of like a horror movie.
All right, give me your heart, woman.
Yeah.
You can find me and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Damien LeVeck, DAMIENLEVECK. And I would love to hear your thoughts on Cleansing Hour whenever you watch it, October 8th on Shudder. And Shudder, you get the first week for free, and it's only $5 after that. And
no excuses.
So there's no excuse. You can actually watch the Cleansing Hour for free.
And folks, I'm sorry, go ahead, Damien, then I'll throw in my caveat.
And if you have Amazon Prime, you can add it to your Prime Video account as well for the same amount. So
now here's something else that I found. If you will take 2 seconds and type in Shudder discount code into Google, there is a code that gives you 30 free days. So you could have all of October with a free Shudder. I actually wrote an article on Geek Insider, 7 reasons to get Shudder now. Several of them were different movies on there, but one was, that they add new movies every week, and the other is that you get it either for a week for free or for 30 days for free. And when you guys
hopefully they don't come back and go, Matthew,
right?
You're giving away the farm.
I did show them the link when I did that, and it had that in there, and they said it was great. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. But of course, Alix and Damien, both of you, anytime that you got any kind of projects going on, man, hit us up, Matthew or Meredith at geekinsider.com. Or of course, go to your PR folks. Tell them you want to talk to Geek Insider, because we love talking to the indies, and especially when they're folks like you all that just love taking 30 minutes out of your night to connect with the fans.
It's great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That was so fun.
We appreciate the time that you took with us, and again, we could probably talk for hours because I just love getting down to the creative process and, where you got your beginning. I know we didn't get to, like where you got your start from and all that stuff. But, there's always the next time, we hope. And we really appreciate the time that you took with us. Thank you so much.
You don't have to go anywhere. We're just going to close this out, and we'd like to say bye to you off the air if you don't mind.
Okay.
Sure.
And let me just find the right button here. And thank you guys, everybody who's tuning in right now. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And I'm still looking for it. There it is. Bye.
You've been tuning in to Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Loughran, a Geek Insider presentation. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app and sign up for the newsletter on our website. We also have advertising opportunities through the website, podcast, and newsletter. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com. This has been a Geek Insider production. Thank you for listening.